The diplomatic dance. The observation deck of the UES Horizon offered an unparalleled view of the Cygnus Nebula, its swirling purples and blues casting ethereal patterns across diplomatic specialist Nira Voss's face. She tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear as she studied the approaching vessel, a massive crystalline ship that refracted starlight into rainbow patterns. "Quite the entrance they're making," commented Commander Orion Blackwell, joining her at the viewport. His dark eyes reflected the nebula, the silver at his temples catching the light. "Are you ready for this, Specialist Voss?" Nira nodded, though her stomach twisted with anticipation. "As ready as I'll ever be, Commander. The Ceruleans have refused contact with humanity for over 70 years. This meeting is—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Historic?" Blackwell offered with a half-smile. "I was going to say terrifying, but historic works too." Nira straightened her midnight blue uniform, the silver diplomatic insignia catching the light. Blackwell's communication device chimed. "They're requesting docking permissions. It's time." The docking bay hummed with activity as crew members made final preparations. Lieutenant Farah Nassar, the Horizon's tactical officer, approached Nira with a small device. "Latest translation matrix," Farah explained, handing over the sleek rectangular unit. "I've incorporated everything we know about Cerulean language, patterns, but it's still mostly guesswork." Nira nodded gratefully. "Thanks. Let's hope it's enough to avoid an interstellar incident. Or war," Farah added bluntly. "The Ceruleans haven't exactly been friendly with any species they've encountered." The docking bay doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the Cerulean delegation. Nira's breath caught as she got her first real look at the aliens. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their skin a deep blue that shifted in hue with each movement, like the surface of an ocean beneath changing light. Intricate silver patterns adorned their otherwise hairless heads, and their four-fingered hands ended in delicate points. The tallest of them stepped forward, silver markings more elaborate than the others. "Ambassador Zenta Kalari," Nira presumed, recalling the briefing files. Behind the ambassador stood a warrior-type Cerulean, distinctive by the crossed metallic bands across their chest and the tense alertness in their posture. "Welcome aboard the Horizon," Commander Blackwell said, stepping forward with his hand extended in the universal gesture of peaceful greeting. "I'm Commander Orion Blackwell." The translator device at Nira's hip hummed as it processed the words into the complex tonal language of the Ceruleans. Ambassador Kalari tilted their head, the facial ridges where eyebrows would be on a human furrowing slightly. "We acknowledge your greeting," the ambassador responded, the translator converting the musical sounds into English. "I am Zenta Kalari, voice of the Andromeda Coalition." The warrior-type Cerulean stepped forward. "I am Thralax, Shield of the Voice." Their voice was deeper, the tones more staccato. The translation came through with a hint of static. Nira stepped forward. "I am Specialist Nira Voss, diplomatic representative of the United Earth Council. We're honored by your presence." Thralax's gaze fixed on Nira, their violet eyes seemingly peering straight through her. "You speak for Earth?" The translator struggled slightly with the question, the words choppy. "I do," Nira confirmed, maintaining eye contact despite the discomfort of being scrutinized so intensely. Something shifted in Thralax's expression, a subtle widening of the eyes, a slight flare of the gill-like structures at their neck. "Interesting. Your species sends its females to speak with potential enemies?" The translator hesitated on the word females, suggesting uncertainty about the translation. Nira kept her diplomatic smile in place. "Our species sends its most qualified individuals, regardless of gender." Ambassador Kalari made a gesture that silenced Thralax. "We have much to discuss. The Coalition seeks understanding of human intentions in this sector." "Of course," Commander Blackwell interjected smoothly. "We've prepared a conference room. Please follow me." As they walked, Nira noticed Thralax continuing to study her. There was something in the Cerulean's gaze that went beyond diplomatic assessment, something almost curious. The conference room had been specially prepared with environmental adjustments to accommodate Cerulean physiology, Slightly higher oxygen levels, elevated humidity, and cooler temperatures. Nira suppressed a shiver as she took her seat. Ambassador Kalari began outlining the coalition's concerns about human expansion, while Nira focused on maintaining positive diplomatic relations. Throughout the discussion, she couldn't help noticing Thrillax's continued attention. Whenever she spoke, the warrior's head tilted slightly as if trying to decipher something beyond her words. 3 hours into negotiations, they took a brief recess. Nira retreated to a quiet corner to review her notes when she sensed a presence behind her. She turned to find Thrillax standing uncomfortably close. "Your species is puzzling," the cerulean stated without preamble. "As is yours," Nira responded, carefully. "You speak of peace while your vessels carry weapons capable of destroying moons." Nira nodded. "A precaution. The universe isn't always friendly." "No," Thrillax agreed. "It is not." The cerulean skin rippled, changing from deep blue to a lighter shade with subtle purple undertones. "Yet you personally carry no weapons." "I'm a diplomat, not a warrior." "The distinction is not clear among my kind," Thrillax said, leaning closer. The translator at Nira's hip emitted a soft buzz as it struggled with the next phrase. "Your kind's contradiction is compelling." Nira frowned at the imprecise translation. "I'm not sure I understand." Thrillax's hand moved to their own translation device, adjusting something. Perhaps direct communication would be more effective. Before Nira could respond, Thrillax leaned even closer and whispered something directly into her ear. Sounds untranslated. In the native cerulean language. The words were musical, rising and falling in tone, incomprehensible to her human ears. Yet the effect was immediate and unexpected. Nira's cheeks flushed crimson, her heart rate accelerating dramatically. The cerulean words might have been meaningless to her conscious mind, but something deep within her neurological system had responded as if she'd been electrified. She stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance. "What? What did you just say? To me?" Thrillax's skin flushed a vivid purple, the equivalent of embarrassment in cerulean physiology. They began, but were interrupted as Commander Blackwell entered the room. "Everything all right, Specialist Voss?" he asked, eyes narrowing at the obvious tension. "Fine," Nira managed, though her voice sounded strained even to her own ears. "Just a small cultural exchange." Blackwell didn't look convinced, but Ambassador Kalari had returned as well, effectively ending the private conversation. As negotiations resumed, Nira found it increasingly difficult to focus. Whatever Thrillax had whispered had triggered something physiological. Her skin remained hypersensitive, her pulse elevated. Occasionally, she caught Thrillax watching her with what appeared to be equal parts fascination and concern. When the day's negotiations finally concluded, Nira immediately sought out Dr. Haruki in the medical bay. "Fascinating," the doctor murmured, after examining her. "It appears the cerulean language operates partially on subsonic frequencies, vibrations that bypass conscious processing and directly stimulate the autonomic nervous system." "So what did Thrillax actually say to me?" Nira demanded. Dr. Haruki shrugged. "Impossible to know without asking, but based on your physiological response." He paused, looking uncomfortable. "Yes?" "The pattern suggests it was either a significant threat or something extremely intimate." Nira's flush returned. "That's absurd, we just met." "Different cultures, different protocols," Dr. Haruki reminded her. "What's inappropriate in one culture might be standard procedure in another." As Nira left the medical bay, she was startled to find Thrillax waiting in the corridor. "I must apologize," the cerulean said immediately. "I received incomplete information about human physiological responses to our language's deeper registers." Nira crossed her arms. "What exactly did you say to me?" Thrillax's skin rippled with color changes. The closest translation would be... The warrior hesitated. "Among my people, certain frequencies are used to establish connection before negotiations. I believed it would facilitate trust." "And what does this connection entail exactly?" Thrillax's violet eyes met hers. It is something between combat and courtship, a recognition of equal standing. Nira's eyes widened. You attempted to court me? Not precisely, Thrallax corrected. The gesture acknowledges another as worthy of both respect and caution, like acknowledging a predator as your equal. So you called me a predator? I recognized your strength, Thrallax clarified. It is rare among my people to offer such recognition to an outsider. Before Nira could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Commander Blackwell's voice came over the communication system. All personnel to battle stations. Unidentified vessels approaching. Thrallax's posture changed instantly, warrior training evident in every line of their body. It appears our peoples may need to fight together before they learn to speak together. As they raced toward the bridge, Nira realized that diplomacy was about to become far more complicated than a mere whispered misunderstanding. Battlefields of words. The bridge of the UES horizon erupted into controlled chaos as Nira and Thrallax arrived. Commander Blackwell stood at the center, barking orders with practiced efficiency, while Lieutenant Farah Nassar's fingers flew across. The tactical console. 6 vessels, configuration unknown, Farah reported, her voice steady despite the tension. They're not responding to hails. Ambassador Kalari entered just behind them, moving with surprising speed for a diplomat. Display the vessels, the cerulean demanded. The view screen flickered to life, showing 6 obsidian ships arranged in a perfect hexagonal formation. They resembled nothing so much as shards of black glass, jagged and ominous against the backdrop of stars. Thrallax made a sound, half hiss, half growl, that the translator didn't attempt to interpret. Kavarians, the warrior finally said, the single word dripping with contempt. You know them? Blackwell asked sharply. Scavengers, Kalari explained. They follow diplomatic gatherings hoping to take advantage of potential conflict. They are opportunists, the communication officer's console chimed. They're hailing us now, Commander. On screen, Blackwell ordered. The view screen shifted to display a being that made Nira instinctively step back. The Kavarian captain appeared almost insectoid with multiple compound eyes and mandibles that clicked as they spoke. The translator struggled with the complex sounds, producing a stilted mechanical rendition. Humans, ceruleans, traditional, enemies meeting in isolation. Convenient for collection. We are not enemies, Commander Blackwell stated firmly, and this vessel is not isolated. We are a diplomatic mission under the protection of the United Earth Fleet. The Kavarian's mandibles clicked rapidly. Laughter, Nira realized with a chill. Fleet is distant. Help will arrive too late. Your technology and biomatter will enhance our collective. Thrallax stepped forward, the crossed bands on their chest gleaming under the bridge lights. The Andromeda Coalition does not surrender its people or its allies. Allies? Nira glanced at the cerulean warrior, surprised by the classification. The Kavarian's compound eyes shifted, focusing on Thrallax. Curious alliance, unprecedented, more valuable for study. The screen went dark as the transmission ended. Moments later, the ship shuddered under the impact of the first weapons fire. Shields at 87%, Farah reported. Their weapons are powerful, but our defenses are holding. Return fire, Blackwell ordered. Target their lead vessel's weapons systems. We need a different approach, Nira interrupted, stepping forward. Commander, the Kavarians referred to us as traditional enemies. They're expecting conflict between us and the ceruleans. Your point, specialist? Blackwell asked, hands gripping the command rail as another impact rocked the ship. What if we confuse them? Present a united front in a way they won't anticipate? She turned to Thrallax and Kalari. Is there a way we could combine our defensive capabilities? Something unprecedented? Thrallax exchanged a look with Ambassador Kalari. Our vessel's crystal matrix could amplify your shield frequencies, the warrior suggested. It has never been attempted with non-cerulean technology. It could also catastrophically destabilize both ships, Kalari warned. Another blast rocked the horizon. Shields at 62%? Farah called out, urgency edging into her voice. We need to try. Blackwell decided. What do you need? Direct. Neural interface, Thralax said, touching the silver patterns on their head. Your shield control system's linked to our crystal matrix through... The warrior hesitated, looking at Nira. Through a compatible neural pathway. Understanding dawned. You need a human mind to bridge the systems, Nira said. Thralax nodded solemnly. The process is intimate, similar to what I attempted earlier, but deeper, and potentially dangerous, Kalari added. Your neural pathways are not designed for such connections. I'll do it, Nira said without hesitation. Tell me how. Minutes later, Nira found herself in engineering, seated before a hastily assembled interface terminal. Thralax sat opposite her, while crew members from both ships worked feverishly to connect the Horizon's shield generators to the cerulean vessel's crystal matrix. Our subsonic language patterns will create the initial connection, Thralax explained, their voice uncharacteristically gentle. When I whispered to you before, it created a basic resonance pattern in your neural pathways. We will expand on that connection. Will it hurt? Nira asked, practical despite her racing heart. Not pain, Thralax replied carefully, but overwhelming. Your mind will experience sensations it was never designed to process. Another impact shook the ship. Blackwell's voice came through the communication system. Shields at 41%, whatever you're doing, do it fast. Nira took a deep breath. I'm ready. Thralax reached across the space between them, placing cool blue fingers against Nira's temples. Remember, the warrior said softly, in this connection there are no secrets. Whatever you are, I will know. Whatever I am, you will know. Before Nira could reconsider, Thralax began to speak. Not whisper this time, but sing. The sounds bypassed Nira's conscious mind, resonating directly with her nervous system. The sensation was electric, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. Colors exploded behind her closed eyelids as her mind expanded, reaching outward. She felt the cerulean ship as if it were an extension of her own body. Crystalline, vast, alive in ways a human vessel could never be. Through Thralax's mind, she understood the intricate patterns of energy flowing through the crystal matrix, and she understood Thralax, warrior, protector, but also scientist and explorer. She felt the cerulean's fascination with humans, the personal mission to understand these contradictory beings who spoke of peace while preparing for war. She witnessed Thralax's defiance of cultural norms to serve as shield to the voice, driven by curiosity as much as duty. In turn, Thralax experienced her determination, her fear, her hope that different species could find common ground. The warrior witnessed her childhood dreams of the stars, her years of study, her personal crusade to prove that diplomacy could succeed where weapons failed. Now, Thralax whispered, the words somehow clear despite the torrent of consciousness flowing between them. Direct the shield frequencies. Imagine them flowing like water into new channels. Nira focused, visualizing the Horizon's shield generators adjusting to match the resonance patterns of the cerulean crystal matrix. She felt resistance, then breakthrough as the two systems synchronized, energy cascading between vessels in harmonious patterns. On the bridge, Lieutenant Farah stared at her console in disbelief. Commander, our shields are changing, strength increasing exponentially. Whatever they're doing, it's working. The Kavarian vessels fired again, but their weapons' energy was harmlessly absorbed into the newly formed shield matrix, dispersing like ripples in a pond. They're powering up engines, Farah reported. They're retreating. In engineering, Nira barely registered the cheers. Her consciousness remained entwined with Thralax's, experiencing the universe through alien perceptions. She understood now what the warrior had whispered to her earlier. Not a threat, not exactly courtship, but an invitation. A recognition of potential compatibility at the deepest level. Slowly, gently, Thralax began withdrawing from the connection. Nira felt a momentary panic at the separation, then acceptance as her consciousness settled back into its human parameters. When she opened her eyes, she found Thralax watching her with an expression that needed no translation. You understand, now? The cerulean said simply. Nira nodded. Your whisper. It was a question. Yes. Could your mind touch mine and remain whole? Thraelax's violet eyes held hers. Few of my own kind could withstand such contact. Commander Blackwell burst into engineering, his face flushed with victory. Whatever you two did, it worked. The Kavarians are in full retreat, and Ambassador Kalari is talking about a formal alliance. He paused, noticing the intensity between them. Did I interrupt something? Nira smiled, still feeling echoes of the neural connection. Just a cultural exchange, Commander. It turns out humans and ceruleans can communicate quite effectively when we find the right frequency. Thraelax's skin rippled with colors that Nira now recognized as amusement. Indeed. Though I believe our traditional diplomatic protocols may need revision. As they made their way back to the bridge, Thraelax leaned close to whisper once more in Nira's ear. This time she understood every nuance of the alien words, a promise that what had begun between them was just the first whisper of a much longer conversation. And unlike the weapons and wars she had trained to face, this was one battlefield where Nira found herself completely, willingly defenseless.